Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Sam Kwak, one of the Kwak Brothers, real estate investor, and welcome to our real estate investing podcast, episode 27. And I am back from South Korea. I visited my family there, and I visited my fiance over in South Korea. And this is a little embarrassing to tell you guys. A little story I want to kick off with here in our podcast. I got back last Friday, and the sleep between Friday and Saturday. I don't know how this happened, but I slept for more than 18 hours straight. And I woke up at 5:30. Yeah, 5:30 p.m. I woke up and I was amazed. I thought it was 5:30 a.m. And I'm like, oh, the sun's coming up. It's pretty early. And I checked my phone and it said 5:30 p.m. So I must have been jet lagged. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I've never slept that long. It was definitely a record-breaking amount of sleep that I got. And I told myself after, I don't need more than 8 hours. I'm never going to sleep that long ever again. I totally burned through my Saturday. I promised a bunch of people that I was going to do a phone call for them, but never got to it, of course, because I was asleep. So a little embarrassing story there, but it's a little lesson learned. I'm never going to sleep that long. So let's kick it off, guys. I am officially back. And before we get to our main content, we can't forget about the book of the podcast, which is Crushing It by Gary Vaynerchuk. And a lot of you guys know Gary V. And he's written a lot of books such as Jab, 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 Right Hook. He wrote the prequel to this book, Crush It. And this is the sequel to that book, Crushing It. So Gary V, I like his books generally because he writes them as if he's having a conversation with you right in front of you. So very easy to read. Love it. And I definitely recommend this if you're looking to start your own brand, if you're looking to start your own blog or any sort of social media presence online, building your business. So definitely recommend it. I'll leave the Amazon link below in the link description below, in the video description below. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'll leave it down there so that you guys can go in one click, get the book, buy the book, read it. Definitely recommend it. So another thing I want to talk about real quick is, as you guys can see, our deal closer mug and hats are here. They're not available for sale just yet. I know a couple episodes ago I talked about putting these online. Not quite available just yet. We in fact just moved our website to a new server, so we're transferring things over. We will have it by the next episode, which, by the way, a little foreshadow for next week's episode. We're going to have my real estate attorney come on board in our podcast episode to talk to you guys about some of his experience dealing with investor, common problems that he sees as an attorney, and he's going to talk about some horror stories that you can avoid in the future. So he'll be on, and the following week, I'm working on getting someone super special who's a seller finance note expert, and he's going to be talking about how to become a seller finance note broker. Really, it's wholesaling notes. So if you are interested in wholesaling seller finance notes instead of wholesaling properties, stay tuned. We'll have that coming up very soon. In the following episode, next week we have an attorney. The following week we're going to have a special guest that's coming on board. So stay tuned. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't. And at any point, if you guys have any questions about this episode of the podcast or the next, leave them down below. We'll definitely love to answer some of your questions. Okay, so let's get to the meat and bones of the podcast. And a couple of things that I've read over the last couple of days, and I can't believe it's September already. Holy smokes. But Zillow, as most of you guys know, just released a research about probable market crash prediction. And I shouldn't say market crash. In their words, when will we see the buyer's market again? Right. So right now, almost all of us are experiencing this in some of the major markets. It is seller's market, right? The prices are really high, and I think it will stay high until we see a buyer's market. But according to Zillow Research, I'm going to pull it up right here so I can give you guys the exact citation. But Zillow just did a research in indicating that by 2020, that the next recession is going to begin. So actually, this is a different article that I pulled up, but in this article dated May 22nd, so a little bit back, their experts are saying that in quarter one of 2020, is going to mark when we're going to see a recession by early 2020. So this is an interesting article. I'm going to leave it in the description below as well for you guys to research on your own. But a lot of indication here, which is kind of interesting that I'm going through. So I'm going to pull some facts from you guys based on Zillow. And so here are bullet points listed by Zillow, okay? Almost half of experts recently surveyed by Zillow said they expect the next recession to begin sometime in 2020. Personally, my prediction was 2019, which isn't far off, right? The most likely trigger for the next recession is monetary policy, according to the experts. So I've been actually predicting that we're going to have a recession because of monetary policy, that being the federal interest rate, right? I've been predicting this for the last couple of months, that the recession is going to be caused by the interest rate rising, which is going to trickle into what I'm going to also talk about in just a second. But Zillow is pretty much saying the same thing that I've been saying over the last couple of months, right? I guess my ego is saying, hey, pat on the back, right? So mortgage underwriting, I'm going to come back to the article. Mortgage underwriting standards in general are about right, panelists said. But while credit has loosened for the best borrowers, it has tightened somewhat for those with low credit and or low down payment. Now, this statement also contradicts another article that I've read about several different banks lending to subprime credit. And they're using different types of products to do so, such as a line of credit, which typically has a different underwriting requirements and underwriting criteria. So while they are true about mortgages, but banks are offering different products today that previously were deemed unpopular or rather unknown to most of the consumers. So this is May 22nd. I actually read something that's completely different from this, but pretty much has the same tone, same message, dated August 30th. And I'm going to look for that. There it is. So 7 days ago, this is the article that I read. And I'll also post this on the description below. But it is stated that 75% or 76% of the experts are saying that they don't expect the national housing market to shift towards buyer's market until 2020 or beyond. So this actually runs parallel with their research that they ran in May 22nd. So it looks like we're getting more and more signal and more clues as to when we're about to see this market crash happen. Personally, I'm really stuck with the 2019 number just because what's going to happen this November, which is the if you guys seen my last episode of podcast, you know, the whole midterm election. I think that might trigger some alarming or could have a positive effect. So we'll have to see. But it looks like 2020 is the number that Zillow is set on. I personally believe 2019, but who knows? We're pretty close. So we're looking at 2019, 2020 range. Anyways, that's definitely something that we need to pay attention. Now, in another note, another clue as to seeing whether if we're going to see a market crash or not. This is an article from National Real Estate Investor article, nreionline.com. And it looks like this was dated August 22nd, so fairly recently, right? So right now, if you guys have seen the movie The Big Short, if you haven't, watch it. Phenomenal movie. Helps you understand how our monetary policy works and how our economy has been destroyed by the banks in 2008. But the article is titled, Wall Street Investors Increase Big Short, quote unquote, bets on CMBS retail loans. Now, what you might be asking, what is a CMBS? CMBS stands for Commercial Mortgage Backed Securities. So if you guys seen the movie Big Short, we know that in 2006, 2007, all of that has been result of bad banking decision, primarily through sale of junk bonds known as mortgage-backed securities and CDOs, right? So what we're seeing is pretty much almost a repeat of 2006, 2007. Instead of residential properties, now we're seeing commercial retail properties. They're about to go through the same type of cycle. So Wall Street, not so surprising, has been putting together this thing called CMBS, Commercial Mortgage-Backed Security. The idea basically is it's taking hundreds or perhaps even thousands of these commercial mortgages, packaging them together while by packaging them together, your risk, the risk of defaulting, is significantly lower, right? Because the average, if you have 1,000 loans put together and sell it as a package, on average, the risk is going to be lower. So typically, investors like to invest in products like that where risk is lower. But it is being said, recent articles, I'm reading a ton here. It looks like we're looking at what we've seen in 2006, 2007, where these commercial mortgages, commercial mortgage-backed securities, they're seeing less and less of quality in terms of credit ratings. We're seeing. Let me quote that for you here. There we go. So I'm going to actually take a paragraph out of the article, so don't think that this is the beginning. So I'm going to quote: another factor that made The Big Short epically profitable for some people is that they were able to buy insurance on subprime mortgage extremely cheap. When people first started writing insurance on subprime mortgages, the insurance premium was well under 100 basis points, as low as 15 basis points for AAA credit rating, and about 75 points for BBB, known as Clancy. So I'm guessing that's a person who was an expert writing this. The premiums on retail-backed CMBS loans are actually quite large, upwards of 400 and 500 basis points. So those willing to write insurance and take the long side of the bet are getting paid a premium about 5 to 6% a year. So we're seeing people already shorting the commercial mortgage market, which indicates that we might see another 2007, 2008 all over again, not with residential properties and residential loans, but now with commercial mortgages. And different article that I read, I'm going to pull it up right here on the screen, is indicating that we're seeing a riskier commercial mortgage-backed securities being sold. Riskier meaning less credit ratings, higher likelihood for defaults. So higher likelihood for these mortgages not being paid by these commercial retailers. Now, you guys can already see that commercial retail isn't doing so hot. I mean, look at Toys R Us, look at Carson Pierce, look at Sears. They're all going through some hard times. In fact, Sears the company is trying to sell some of their junior companies offshore. So yeah, I mean, it's not looking good for a lot of the retailers, and I'm seeing a lot of vacancies in some of these strip malls, commercial spaces. So it's not the best looking thing right now. So definitely got to keep an eye on that. While we're not seeing major momentum with this CMBS issue, but it is definitely something that we need to pay attention to, because I have a feeling that it's gonna trickle and domino effect into what we're gonna see to be repeat of 2007 and 2008 all over again with the commercial mortgage side of things. Okay, so that's pretty much what I'm looking at. That's on the radar as far as real estate news. I'm always keeping up with some of these news that are coming up. You guys should definitely take caution as to what's happening in the next year or two, because a lot of experts are indicating that the market crash may come between 2019 to 2020. So definitely be on the lookout. Okay, so moving on to the next topic of this podcast, which is Airbnb, pros and cons. How do you do it? How do you make it work? What are some of the things that I have to say about Airbnb and some of the other experts have to say about Airbnb? So quick disclaimer, I have done Airbnb before with even my own house. So I have some experience. Now, I'm not super duper expert with Airbnb versus some other people that are doing it with the whole entire portfolio. But based on my own experience and based on what the conversations that I've been having, in fact, I think a great idea will be having an Airbnb expert in our podcast coming up soon. So I'll definitely make a note of having an Airbnb expert join us in our episode or podcast to talk to you guys about some tips, tricks on how to best get into Airbnb. So we'll talk about that. But the main thing right now, and the big scare right now that is happening, and before you get into Airbnb investing, is the compliance and then political climate. There's already cities and villages, towns that have banned Airbnb outright, which I believe is ridiculous. It's ludicrous, right? I think we should be able to do whatever we want. I mean, being a capitalist that I am, and being somewhat libertarian as far as economic and business activity goes, but I think it's ridiculous. So we have to be careful if we're buying a property for the use of Airbnb. We also have to look at both sides. It has to work both on the traditional rental model, and of course, it has to work with the Airbnb model. So if you're buying a property and you know it's going to go negative on trying to rent it traditionally, then don't buy it, right? What if the city that you're investing in all of a sudden declares saying, hey, no more Airbnb as of now, right? How are we going to make the payments, financing? I mean, even if you're buying cash, well, there goes your return. There goes your yield. So we have to be extremely careful on what the city/village is going to do in response to Airbnb. So if there's a town or city that already came out and said, we're super friendly towards Airbnb, we don't care what you do, then awesome. Those are typically areas that we would like to invest in, but I would still be on the cautious side by making sure that the numbers work even on the traditional rental side. So it's definitely important to keep an eye on that. The whole political external climate. Washington D.C. is another example. Washington D.C. recently outlawed the nightly rental situation. So not good, right? Definitely not good for business. We want more business activity, even through Airbnb. So we have to watch out for that. The next big thing is you have to be prepared to handle the maintenance. The maintenance is going to be huge, right? You almost have to operate like a hotel. So you're going to have someone, whether it's yourself or someone that you're going to hire, to constantly clean the property, right? So you may have certain nights that are nightly, so you may have a turnover almost every day, or you might have guests that stay a week at a time. In which either case, you're going to need someone clean the house, apartment, loft, whatever you're planning to do as an Airbnb. Now, you can do non-traditional Airbnb such as campgrounds, RV tents, hammocks, right? Those are non-traditional, but there's some cash flow to be made there, right? It's little unorthodox, but it can still work. So you have to be willing to think outside the box. How can you facilitate a great lodging and nightly rental experience for your Airbnb guests? And I forgot to mention this, it doesn't have to be Airbnb exactly. It can be a VRBO. There's some other nightly rental sites that are out there. Even Expedia and I think Booking.com allows for nightly rental. So be on the lookout for that as well. So you have to have a really good maintenance team, someone that you can trust, someone who's reliable, someone who can be there all the time, but also someone who's reasonable with their pricing, because you don't necessarily want to pay a large amount of cleaning cost, which is going to eat up your cash flow. So you definitely don't want to do that. You want to make sure you hire someone who's affordable, reasonable, does a great job, reliable, all those things. Very important to have that. So maintenance is going to be huge. If you can nail down maintenance, chances are you're going to have a very good operation. But at the same time, we don't want to forfeit coordination of bookings, making sure that your guests are having a good experience. All those things lead to you becoming what's known as being a super host, which being a super host, you have some privileges. You can raise the rates. You have some flexibility as far as booking goes. So there's a lot of things going on there. So I guess this podcast episode serves more as a preview to one of our upcoming podcast episodes we're going to have an expert of Airbnb come up and be featured in our podcast show. We'll definitely have this person come and talk more in details about properly managing the Airbnb, how to acquire properties for the use of Airbnb, and much more. So we'll have that coming up soon in our podcast. In the later episodes, hopefully in the next 3 episodes, we'll have something. We'll have an expert lined up. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in to our episode of podcast. Be sure you guys tune in for the next couple episodes because we're going to have a lot of experts, a lot of outside guests coming in to speak in specific topics. It'd be very, very exciting. So guys, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Well, hello there. You made it to the end of this video, which means you loved the video, you liked what you saw. If you want to see more awesome real estate investing videos and podcasts in the future, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon to get more notification about our next videos.